All right, so with what we've discussed so far, just like we do last hour, since you two are in here, left or right? Okay. One of the keys to arthropod success. Okay, so complex sensory organs, I think we could take that, okay? Then we just keep going left, or you pick? Keep going left. What's another key to their success? Yeah, they have tracheal systems. It's tracheal tubes that line their bodies, and it's actually called spiracles that are external openings, whether it's the wings in flies or the sides of the bodies in that of other insects like that of beetles. Yes, there's a tracheal tube system that pipes the oxygen directly to their cells. Now where? Okay. Yes, they have complex behavior patterns. That's right. Now, oddly enough, whether it's the mother sacrificing herself for her offspring, or even that of last week, the male was out venturing out trying to find a female to mate with, and didn't go so well for the male, did it? Because he ended up succumbing to the female's venom. But one of the things that we had mentioned, and maybe it's terrible to say, is it that big of a deal anyway? Well, yeah, the male spider lost his life. You say that would be a big deal for him, and that would be true. But why might it not be such a big deal in his life cycle, not hers, in his life cycle? Right, because once males reach sexual maturity and are on the, if you want to call it the hunt or the prowl for that of a female, once, whether they mate or not, he's only going to have about another month, 2, 3 tops maybe, that he's going to live anyway. So for some reason, that's just the way the man upstairs, you could say, designed a lot of arthropods, is that once males reach that maturity, they're just going to die anyway. Now where? Go to the right? Far, far right or far right? Far, far right, okay? Okay, so why would make this a two-step process? So are you going left or back? Okay, so why might that be? We talked about metamorphosis. Why is that an advantage for, it's an advantage for humans too in certain cases, but why is it also an advantage for arthropods? I caught none of that with what you said. Okay. Okay. Well, when you talk about metamorphosis, you could say that of maggots, which would be a larval stage. That is different from what, do you think? Yeah, so because that's a different life cycle, because that's going through metamorphosis. So what would be different besides the habitat that we had said last week? What might be different between those two stages? Well, yeah, they could get away, but what about food source? That's what we're talking about. Even humans, we said we could use those as an example. I don't know why I'm playing with this thing, that dowel, so I'm going to set it down. So how could that be similar with that of humans? Because we said, what? Infant, toddler, adolescent, preteen, teen, young adult, and adult. Those are all different stages that we go through a type of metamorphosis. But what's going to change besides our size? Jaw structure, which means your feeding process or aspects is going to change. With that of maggots, okay, so they would just feed upon dead and decaying materials. So would flies, but holy cow, when they bite you, sometimes you can tell their jaws really come in and then they pinch you. And yes, that does hurt. So the food source would be different when they go through metamorphosis, like you said. And then finally, what might be another key to their success? Because I think there's two left. Okay, their exoskeleton. Why is that an advantage for arthropods? What does the exoskeleton do? Okay, that's going to be its major function with any skeleton is protection, but it also allows them to move. How or why? Even in humans' case, what's the advantage to a skeleton besides protection? Okay, so this is a hinge. The skeleton's moving, but the only way the skeleton is moving is because of what? Yeah, the jointed appendages, which was probably the sixth of six keys, but muscles will attach to their exoskeleton and allow them to essentially move. And then I think a third case could be made that exoskeleton keeps them from, of course, drying out, in a matter of speaking, which is sometimes similar to a question we might get with the biology class or the A&P class when we're watching a surgery. Okay? Typically what happens is doctors or surgeons will put tape over their eyes, which is maybe rather odd if they're not going to be operating on their eyes. Why not just leave them possibly open? It's maybe something that we've only said. I don't know if it's something you ever wrote down. But why might you actually remove or put tape over their eyes? Well, they could get damaged, but that's just a place where water can exit. So it's a way of keeping the patient hydrated, in other words. Okay. So moving forward then to our first class, this is what we had been talking about today, your metamorphosis, your behavior patterns, organs, and then those jointed appendages and exoskeletons probably up there. All right. So moving forward then to our first class, which is called Meristromata. Okay? And these are actually, you would think that they're crustaceans, but they're in a separate class. Okay? Crustaceans is a class where here we have the horseshoe crab in its own separate class. And one of the reasons that we could say, even though they have this in their name, that they're different than that of the crustaceans is because of this structure right here. Okay? So what do you think of when you think of horseshoes other than the equine family or horses? It's more so what it's shaped like, because what does a horseshoe look like? Has a curve. Of course, I can't make my thumbs go the opposite direction, but I think we'd all agree that what we're actually looking at is something more so like that. Okay, so that's what we mean by that of a horseshoe, or I think it's the omega sign in Greek letters, and with that. That's why they get their name, because when you look at crabs and lobsters, okay, their appendages are out to the side, okay? These have walking legs that are directly underneath them, and that's another reason that these animals are in a separate class because of their exoskeleton that's shaped like a horseshoe, hence the name horseshoe crab, and then because of their, you could say, their walking legs that they actually have underneath them. Okay, then I believe we move on to the arachnids, probably the most common. If someone was to ask you to name an arthropod, this is probably the most common one. If it's not this, it might be insects, because there's just so many of them. There's a lot more insects than there are spiders, though. Paper? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the aspects that you'll be responsible for is being able to distinguish and name the differences between the class arachnids, because it's not just spiders that are in this class. You want to take a guess what might be another arachnid. And we actually saw it in that video with the spider hunter. It had type of acid defense mechanism. Yeah, scorpions, those are also arachnids. And then the less common ticks and mites are also arachnids. So when someone says name an arachnid, they're probably going to name a spider. They're not going to name a scorpion or that of a deer tick or a mule tick, but those also are arachnids. So when we get further down the line, you're responsible for knowing the family name, not just the order, but probably the families of these as well, okay? Because again, you have 3 different animals within this class: spiders, scorpions, ticks, and mites. And then it's going to be here where there is a difference, a cephalothorax, okay? So what might this mean in human terms? What is a thorax in human terms? Is that down where your digestive organs are, or is it a little higher? What do we think? Yeah, it's actually a little higher. So your chest region is actually your thorax, where, again, where you have your rib cage, your lungs, your pumping mechanism or heart, that would be your thorax, okay? Then, what does this mean from last chapter? The cephalo part. Where would we have utilized or talked about this prefix here? From the mollusks. Okay, that's one. Octopods, and then cuttlefish and nautiloids. What do those all have in common? They must be in the same class, and that is what? That's a characteristic. What class were those animals in? Were they mollusks? Yeah, they were mollusks, but that's the phylum. What's the class? Cephalopods, okay? So that meaning head, this of course means the head region and the chest region then are, it's not that they're fused together, but it just gives you 2 segments then. Combination of the head and the thorax, okay? Then, what is, now that we've got Halloween behind us, you could say Freeform channel, which has lots of Disney movies on there, and especially once Thanksgiving's done with, that family channel will show lots of movies based upon what? Once Thanksgiving's over with? Christmas. So in your opinion, I think everyone could agree upon this. And you might say, no, it's the Grinch. No, it's the Polar Express. Or what might be the staple for a movie for Christmas? That probably a lot of families say, we've got to watch this movie at least once in the Christmas season. Christmas Vacation, I would say that's probably what a lot of people would agree, but what else, I think it is too, but what else might it be that's probably just about as popular? See, I wouldn't have thought of that, but yeah, Home Alone. Okay, and I would say you're not wrong with Elf, you're not wrong with, what did we say, Polar Express, or of course there's, maybe you might say Miracle on 34th Street or something to that effect. But one of the reasons I like to bring up Home Alone, which I think we could agree upon, is how many of you are familiar with that movie? 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty much everybody? Okay, so one of the things I do like to show this, and this comes from that of YouTube, so just bear with me for a moment. Okay, so I found the scene, and I think this is something that everyone could or would possibly appreciate. Okay, now that's a school message from Mr. Hammer, but we'll go ahead and continue this, but I'm just going to hang that up since I already know what it is. Okay, so what do you notice that where he's grabbing that? We said spiders have 2 body segments, okay? So then with this, all the digestive organs here, okay, would be called what? Just like for humans, what is this body segment called? Well, that's it's got a more, that's where it's located, but what is this body segment called? It's your abdomen, okay? Then notice he grabbed right around what looks like a waistband right there. And what that means is the the book lungs and its pumping mechanism are in this area. And then, of course, up here, you have the cephalic region, which means head. Those 2 segments are fused together. So it's not 3 body segments like in that of insects or humans. It's only 2. You have the cephalothorax here. This is called the pedicel, where he's actually grabbed that, which is probably the most common place to do that, and then picks it up, and he's about ready to put it on, is it Marv? Is that his name? I can't remember the character. I think it's Marv. Anyway, so as we proceed forward. Now, why not a chance? You will never hit that spider, tarantula. Why not? I suppose if you had a scoop shovel, maybe. But even that would be difficult. So as we're about to find out.
What are you doing, Mark?
Oh, Harry. Okay.
Mark? Mark, what are you doing? Come on. Get him. Get him. Where is it? Where is it? No, Mark. What do you want, huh? You jerk.
Okay. So, like we said earlier, why, with a crowbar, why would you not have a chance of hitting that animal? Well, it's something that's going to happen before the reflexes. How does that spider or that tarantula know, I better get out of the way? Same thing with flies. Yes, because of the hairs, which causes them heightened reflexes, which is why you need to have a fly swatter usually to get flies. Because even if there's one on the table, a fly, you don't sweep across with your hands on the surface of the table, do you? Well, you can if you're quicker than I am, but if you're going to squash that fly, you don't do it with your hands on the table. You do it maybe what? Maybe about a couple of inches above where the animal's going to be in just a couple of seconds, and then squash them like that. Okay, so that's why I wanted to bring that up with the idea of that pedicel, where that's where he grabs that spider right around its waistband, okay? And that separates these two segments. These two are put together, and then you have the abdomen together, which makes up their two body segments. Okay. So let's maybe do one more and see if that, yeah, we'll stop once we get to the end here. Okay. So I don't know if that makes you want to go home and watch Home Alone now, but maybe it does. I don't know. But of course, I think we all agree we got to get through Thanksgiving first. But in certain cases, even movies like Hocus Pocus, that's probably nothing wrong with watching that show year-round. But and some people may choose to watch Home Alone year-round. But regardless, we're almost there to that season anyway. These are the fangs, as you can see. Fangs is a common name, and these are the first anterior appendages. Because if you really want to be specific, arachnids like spiders actually have 12 appendages. Okay? They've got their 8 walking legs, and then they've got 2 fangs or chelicerae. That gives you 10, and then 2 more. They're called pedipalps or pedipalps. And those are for various reasons. The one is it's used by the males in their mating process, and it's also used by them to secure the fangs in the females. Those pedipalps will actually secure these so then they don't get envenomated. Okay, so that's all I have. We're ending a little bit early. I got to get ready for next hour. So with that, we will catch up to you next time.